A simple hiker rescues an injured stranger in the wilderness, only to discover she's a millionaire's daughter. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is now. Subscribe to the channel and let's get started. The wind howled through Pine Ridge Forest, snapping branches like brittle bones. Rain lashed the earth, turning trails to rivers. Luke Miller, hunched against the storm, gripped his axe, its weight a steady anchor. He'd been splitting logs when the sky split open, drenching his flannel and matting his hair beneath his cap. 38 years in these woods taught him to ignore the cold, but the cry, sharp, human, cut through the gale like a blade. He froze, ears straining. Another cry, fainter from the ravine below. Luke's jaw tightened. Outsiders didn't belong here. Hikers, developers, they all brought trouble, but the sound wasn't greed or arrogance. It was fear. He slung the axe over his shoulder and moved, boots sinking into mud, each step a grudging surrender to instinct. The ravine was a snarl of roots and rocks, slick with rain. Luke scanned the shadows, hazel eyes narrowed. There, crumpled against a boulder, a figure clutched their knee, face pale under a soaked hood. A woman, young, her gear too pristine for these wilds. She flinched as he approached, her green eyes wide, hands scrabbling for purchase. "Stay still," Luke growled, voice rough as gravel. "You'll make it worse." She shook her head, braid whipping. "I don't know you. Don't come closer." He stopped, rain dripping from his beard. "You want to stay out here and bleed? Fine by me." But he didn't move away. Her fear wasn't defiance. It was raw, like a cornered animal's. He crouched, keeping distance. "Can you walk?" She tried, gasping as her leg buckled. "No," she whispered, voice breaking. "I can't." Luke cursed under his breath. The storm wasn't letting up, and night was closing in. He dropped the axe, its blades sinking into the mud. "Gotta move you. No choice." Before she could protest, he slid an arm under her knees, another behind her back. She tensed, fists balled, but didn't fight as he lifted her. She was light, trembling, her breath hitching against his chest. "Name," he said, trudging uphill, rain stinging his face. "Sophia," she murmured, barely audible. "You?" "Luke." He didn't look at her, focused on the path. His cabin wasn't far, a squat, weathered thing built by his hands. The woman, Sophia, clung to her pack, fingers white-knuckled. Her fear grated on him, but so did the warmth of her against his shoulder, a reminder of a world he'd shut out. The cabin's door groaned as he kicked it open. Inside, the air was dry, sharp with pine and smoke. He set her on a chair by the hearth, her soaked clothes dripping onto the floorboards. She winced, clutching her knee, eyes darting, taking in the sparse room, the carved wooden bird on the mantel, the faded photo beside it. Luke ignored her gaze, kneeling to check her injury. His hands, calloused but steady, probed gently. "Sprained, not torn, but bad enough to keep you here," he said, not meeting her eyes. "Need to wrap it. Stay put." Sophia nodded, teeth chattering. "Thank you," she said, soft, like she wasn't sure he'd hear it. He grunted, fetching a bandage from a tin box. Her gear caught his eye. A sleek pack, logo embossed, screaming money. His gut twisted. People like her didn't wander Pine Ridge by accident. As he bound her knee, his fingers brushed her ID card, half slipped from her pack. Sophia Anderson. The name hit like a spark. Anderson. He knew that name. Knew the greed it carried, the lives it had crushed. His hands stilled, eyes narrowing. "You're far from home," he said, voice low, edged with something darker than before. Sophia's gaze flicked to his, wary. "Just hiking," she said, too quick. "Needed to get away." Luke stood, turning to the hearth, hiding the storm in his chest. She wasn't just a lost hiker. She was tied to them, to the company that stole his family's land, their home, their everything. He tossed a log into the fire, sparks flaring. Outside, the rain roared on, but inside a different storm was brewing. The storm battered the cabin, wind rattling the shutters like a fist demanding entry. Inside, the hearth cast flickering shadows, warming the air thick with pine and smoke. Sophia sat by the fire, her knee wrapped tight, the ache dull but persistent. Her damp clothes clung to her, and water pooled beneath her chair. Luke moved with purpose, stoking the flames, his broad shoulders a barrier between her and the world outside. She watched him, his hands steady, his face unreadable, gaze catching the firelight but giving nothing away. "Tea?" he asked, voice gruff, not looking at her. He set a kettle on a hook over the fire. Sophia nodded, teeth still chattering. "Please." Her voice felt small, swallowed by the storm's roar. She shifted, wincing, her gaze drifting to a faded photo in a cracked frame on the mantel. A woman with Luke's eyes, a man with his jaw, and a younger Luke, smiling in a way he didn't now. Luke caught her staring. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing, pouring steaming water into a tin mug. He handed it to her, fingers brushing hers, calloused, warm. She cradled the mug, its heat seeping into her palms, grounding her. "Thanks," she said, softer this time, "for everything." He grunted, kneeling to adjust the fire. "Don't thank me yet. Storm's not done." His tone was clipped, but his hands lingered on the logs, deliberate, as if the task held back something unspoken. Sophia sipped the tea, bitter and strong, warming her core. The silence stretched, heavy with the weight of their earlier exchange. Anderson. The name hung between them, a ghost she couldn't shake. She didn't know what it meant to him, but his voice, low, edged, had carried a wound. She wanted to ask, but his silence was a wall, and she wasn't sure she could scale it. "You live here alone?" she ventured, eyes on the photo again. A safe question, she thought. Luke's hand stilled. "Yeah." He stood, brushing soot from his palms, his back to her. "Suits me." She frowned, sensing the dodge. "No family? Friends?" "Gone." The word was a door slamming shut. He turned, grabbing a blanket from a trunk, tossing it to her. "Dry off. You're soaking my floor." She caught the blanket, its wool rough but warm. "Sorry," she muttered, draping it over her shoulders. Her hands fidgeted with the fabric, but her eyes held a spark, a defiance she hadn't named. I'm not used to this. Being stuck, not knowing what's next." Luke snorted, leaning against the table. "Welcome to the woods." But his eyes softened, just a fraction, like he saw her. Not her name, not her gear, but her. "What's got you out here anyway? City girl like you." Sophia stiffened, the mug trembling in her hands. I needed to think, clear my head." She hesitated, then added, "Life gets loud, too loud." He studied her, rain drumming the roof. "Loud," he echoed, like he was testing the word. "What's that mean? Fancy parties? Boardrooms?" Her laugh was sharp, bitter. "Something like that." She set the mug down, hands still fidgeting. "It's not what people think. Money, power, it's a cage. You're supposed to be grateful, but..." She trailed off, surprised at her own honesty. His silence didn't judge, didn't push. It just waited. Luke crossed his arms, the firelight carving lines in his face. "Cages come in all shapes," he said, voice low. "Some are made of gold, some are made of dirt." His gaze flicked to the photo, then back to her. "You lose something, you learn that." Sophia's chest tightened. "What did you lose?" The question slipped out, too bold, but she couldn't pull it back. Luke's eyes darkened, the air shifting like a cold draft. He turned to the window, staring into the storm. "This was home, he said, so quiet she almost missed it. "Now it's just me." She leaned forward, blanket slipping. "What happened?" He didn't answer. His hand gripped the table's edge, knuckles white. The photo on the shelf seemed to watch them, the faces frozen in a time he wouldn't share. Sophia's throat tightened. She'd pushed too far, and now the silence was a chasm. She wanted to bridge it, to say something real, but the words wouldn't come. Outside, the wind screamed, but inside, the quiet was louder. Luke's back stayed turned, his silence a story he wasn't ready to tell. Sophia clutched the blanket, her question unanswered, but the weight of his loss settled over her, heavy as the rain. Dawn broke over Pine Ridge, pines glistening under a bruised sky, the storm's fury spent. Inside the cabin, Sophia tested her bandaged knee, hobbling across the floorboards. The ache had dulled, but each step stung. Luke was gone, out for firewood, he'd muttered before dawn. She'd woken to an empty room, the hearth cold. Her pack sat by the chair, its contents spilling, map, water bottle, and her ID card misplaced on the table. Her stomach twisted. He'd seen it. He knew. She limped to the table, fingers brushing the card. Sophia Anderson. The name felt heavier now, tied to his shadowed words last night. This was home. Now it's just me. Her throat tightened. What had her father's company done to him? Anderson Global's logo haunted her memory. On contracts, skyscrapers, her life. She shoved the card back into her pack, heart racing. The door creaked. Luke stepped in, arms full of logs, his cap dusted with dew. His hazel eyes flicked to her, then away, face unreadable. "You're up," he said, voice rough, dropping the wood by the hearth. "Knee?" "Better," Sophia said, too quick. She stood straighter, hiding the wince. "I can move." He nodded, kneeling to stack the logs. "Good, trails will be clear by noon." You can head out." His tone was flat, but his hands moved too fast, betraying something. Anger, unease. She gripped the chair, fists clenching. "Luke, why'd you look at my ID?" The words burst out, sharper than she meant. "You saw my name. You knew it." His shoulders stiffened. He stood, brushing dirt from his hands, eyes narrowing. "Didn't snoop. It fell out." He crossed his arms, leaning against the wall. "Anderson ain't a name you forget. Not here." "What's that supposed to mean?" Her voice trembled, not with fear, but something rawer. Guilt, maybe, or defiance. She stepped closer, ignoring the pain in her knee. "You said home. You meant this place, didn't you? What happened?" Luke's jaw clenched, his gaze cutting to the window, then back to her. "You really don't know?" His voice was low, a blade wrapped in velvet. "Anderson Global, your daddy's company. They came for Pine Ridge. Promised jobs, progress. Took our land instead. My folks, gone. House, gone. All of it, dust. Sophia's breath caught. She saw it. Bulldozers, contracts. Her father's signature on a deal she'd never questioned. "I didn't." She stopped, fists clenching tighter. "I was a kid. I didn't know." "Didn't need to," Luke snapped, stepping forward. "You wear it. That pack. Those boots. His money. You're his, whether you like it or not." His eyes blazed, but beneath the anger, pain flickered, raw and old. "I'm not him!" Sophia's voice cracked, fists unclenching as she gestured. That spark from the storm flared now. She wasn't her father, and she'd make it right. "You think I chose this? I hate it. His world, his rules. I came here to get away." She turned, limping to the window, staring at the glistening pines. "I've never belonged there. Never will." Silence fell, sharp as a blade. Luke's boots scuffed the floor. She felt him behind her, not close, but close enough. "Then why stay?" he asked, quieter now, like he was testing her. "Why live in a cage you hate?" She laughed, bitter, wiping her eyes. "Because it's all I know." Her voice dropped, barely a whisper. "I'm not like you. I don't know how to fight for something real." He didn't answer. The fire he'd started crackled, filling the quiet. Sophia turned, meeting his gaze. His anger had softened, replaced by something else. Recognition, maybe. She wasn't just an Anderson to him now. She was a stranger in her own skin, like he'd been when the world took his home. "You don't know me," she said, softer, stepping toward him. "But I'm not my father, I swear." Luke's eyes held hers, searching. "Maybe," he said, voice low. "But you carry his name. That's enough for some wounds." She nodded, throat tight, the weight of his words settling deep. The cabin felt smaller, the air charged with truths neither could unsay. Outside, a bird called, sharp and fleeting. Sophia glanced at the window, the forest stretching beyond, and saw Luke in a new light. Not just a man who'd lost, but one who'd stayed, guarding what was left. Her guilt didn't fade, but her resolve grew beside it, a need to understand, to make it right, even if she didn't know how. The sun climbed higher over Pine Ridge, its light filtering through pines to dapple the floorboards. Sophia's knee throbbed less, Luke's tight wrap easing the swelling, letting her bear weight. She stayed inside, the forest's quiet hum a stark contrast to the city's clamor. Luke hadn't spoken since morning, since her name, Anderson, had cracked the air between them. He worked outside, splitting wood, the axe's rhythmic thwack echoing like a heartbeat. She watched through the window, his flannel taut across his shoulders, each swing precise but heavy with something unspoken. Sophia limped to the table, her fingers tracing its edge. Her pack lay open, her ID card tucked away, but its weight lingered. She wasn't her father, but she was his shadow, and Luke's words, "You're his," stung deeper than her injury. She needed air, movement, anything to shake the knot in her chest. She stepped outside, the mossy air cool and heavy. Luke glanced up, axe paused mid-swing, gaze narrowing. "Shouldn't be walking," he said, voice low, wiping sweat from his brow. "I'm fine," Sophia snapped, sharper than she meant. She hobbled toward him, twisting her braid. "I can't just sit there staring at your ghosts." His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue, setting the axe down. "Then make yourself useful." He nodded to a pile of kindling. "Stack it. Small stuff first." She hesitated, then nodded, kneeling awkwardly to gather sticks. The task was simple, grounding. Wood against wood, her hands learning the rhythm. Luke watched, then returned to his axe, the silence between them softening, filled by the forest's pulse. She stacked faster, each stick a silent plea to ease the guilt clawing her, as if work could erase her father's mark. "You're not bad at this," Luke said after a while, his tone lighter, almost teasing. He split a log, the crack loud in the quiet. For a city girl, Sophia smirked, tossing a stick onto the pile. I'm a quick learner. She paused, then added softer. My mom taught me to garden. Before, this feels familiar. Luke's axe stilled. He looked at her. Really looked, like he was seeing past her name. She liked the dirt, huh? He said, voice low. Mine did too. Used to tell me stories out here, under these trees. Sophia's throat tightened. What kind? She kept stacking, her hands steadying her heart. Old ones, about the land, the spirits in it. He swung the axe again, slower. Said the forest remembers, every root, every loss. His eyes flicked to the trees, distant. She'd hate what happened to it. Sophia stopped, a stick clutched tight. Luke, I'm sorry. About what my father did. I didn't know. Her voice shook, but she held his gaze, green eyes pleading. He didn't answer right away, just split another log. Ain't your fault, he said finally, voice rough. But it don't change the hole it left. She nodded, swallowing hard. They worked in silence, the pile growing, their movements a quiet dance. The forest watched, its stillness a balm. Sharing the work, hearing his mother's echo, built something fragile. A truce maybe, or the start of one. Inside later, Luke boiled water for soup, the steam curling in the air. Sophia sat, her knee propped, watching him move with care. You don't have to stay out here alone, she said, tentative. You could fight for this place, with others. He snorted, stirring the pot. Tried that. He gestured to a worn notebook on a shelf, its pages thick with writing. Petitions. Please to save Pine Ridge. Signed with Mom's name. Nobody listens when money talks. His voice hardened, but his hands stayed gentle, ladling soup. She took the bowl, its warmth steadying her. Maybe you just need the right voice. Her words hung, bold, untested. She didn't know if she could be that voice, but the thought sparked something, hope or defiance. Luke's eyes met hers, searching. You think you can change him? Your father? His tone wasn't cruel, just tired, like he'd seen too many fights lost. I don't know, she admitted, voice small, but I want to try. He nodded and they ate in silence, the soup's heat a comfort. Later, clearing the table, Sophia's fingers brushed a folded paper tucked beneath a book. She pulled it free. An old letter, yellowed, addressed to Luke's mother. Anderson Global stamped the header, offering a pittance for their land. The letter mentioned future development phases, a shadow over Pine Ridge's safety. Her breath caught. It wasn't just a story, it was proof, tying her father's hand to Luke's loss. She slipped the letter back, heart pounding. The truce they'd built now threaded with a new resolve. She couldn't undo the past, but this she could fight for. The forest glowed under a late afternoon sun, its light slicing through Pine Ridge's canopy, leaves rustling like whispers. Sophia's knee, though still tender, held her weight better, enough for her to follow Luke down a narrow trail. He'd suggested the walk, a gruff offer to see the place before she left. She trailed him, her boots crunching leaves, his flannel a steady beacon ahead. The letter she'd found, Anderson Global's cold offer to his mother, burned in her mind, fueling a resolve she hadn't named yet. Luke stopped at a clearing, the ground flat and open, framed by towering pines. No cabin, no trail markers, just a stretch of earth that felt like a scar. He stood, hands in pockets, gaze fixed on the horizon. This was it, he said, voice low. Our house, orchard out back. Mom's garden right there. He pointed to a patch of wildflowers, their colors defiant against the green. Sophia's chest tightened. She saw it in his words. A porch creaking under footsteps, apples heavy on branches, laughter echoing. It sounds beautiful, she said, stepping closer. What was it like? He glanced at her, surprise flickering. Safe, he said, almost a whisper. Dad'd carve by the fire. Mom'd sing, off-key. A faint smile ghosted his lips, then faded. Till your father's people came. Papers, promises, the orchard's gone, but I still hear her songs. He shrugged, the weight of years in the gesture. She swallowed, the letter's words clawing her. She stacked kindling in her mind, each imagined stick a silent plea for forgiveness, as if effort could undo her father's mark. I didn't know, she said, voice soft, green eyes meeting his. Not really. He nodded, not absolving, just acknowledging. You couldn't. You were a kid. He kicked a stone, its clatter sharp. But knowing don't fill the hole, she nodded, wrapping her arms around herself. The clearing felt vast, heavy with memories. Why stay? She asked, soft. Why fight for this place alone? Luke's gaze drifted to the wildflowers. It's all I got left of them. His voice was steady but raw. Every tree, every root, it's theirs. I can't let it go. Sophia's throat burned. She saw her own life. Penthouse views, boardroom silences, a father who saw her as an asset. I get it, she said, surprising herself. Not the same, but I came here to escape, to find something real. She laughed, bitter. Stupid, right? Thinking a hike could fix me. Luke turned, eyes searching hers. Ain't stupid, he said, voice low. You're here. That's more than most do. He paused, then added, What's your cage like? She hesitated, then let it spill. It's empty. Dad's world. Meetings, money, control. I'm supposed to take over, but I can't breathe there. He needs me to carry his name. Her voice shook, hands trembling, embarrassed. This trip was my rebellion. Look how that turned out. Luke's laugh was short, warm. You're alive, that's something. He stepped closer, the gap between them shrinking. You're tougher than you look, Sophia. Her heart skipped, his words a spark. She smiled, small but real. Thanks. The clearing seemed less haunted now, their truce weaving a fragile bridge. They walked back, slower, the leaves' whispers a quiet companion. At the cabin, Sophia paused, the letter's weight pressing again. Luke, what if I could help? With Pine Ridge. Talk to my father. Make him listen. Luke froze, his hand on the door. You think you can? His voice was sharp, hope and doubt colliding. He's a wall, Sophia. He opened the notebook, showing her petitions signed with his mother's name. Years of these, and nothing. I know, she said, hands trembling, but I'm his daughter. That's something, right? Her voice wavered, bold but untested. I want to try. He studied her, the firelight from inside catching his eyes. Maybe, he said softer, but it's a long shot. He pushed the door open, then stopped, voice low. Every petition's a promise to Mom. Never thought anyone'd hear him. Sophia's breath caught. The letter flashed in her mind. His fight wasn't just anger, it was love, woven into every word he'd sent. They'll hear you now, she said, fierce. I'll make them. Luke's gaze held hers, a flicker of belief breaking through. Hope you're right, he said, stepping inside. The door creaked shut, but the promise lingered, tying her to this place, to him. She followed, the clearing's memories trailing behind, not gone but quieter now. Her resolve hardened. She'd face her father, not just for Luke, but for herself, for the girl who'd come to Pine Ridge seeking something worth fighting for. The morning sun hung low over Pine Ridge, its light soft through the mist, gilding the forest in quiet gold. Sophia's knee, now a dull ache, let her move freely enough to pack her gear. Today was her last in the cabin. Trails were clear, her injury manageable. She folded the blanket Luke had given her, its wool carrying smoke and pine. Her pack sat by the door, but her promise to fight for this land pressed heavier. The letter she'd found, Anderson Global's cold words to his mother, burned in her mind, a tether to the clearing's echoes. Luke stood outside, sharpening his axe. The whetstones rasp a steady rhythm. His flannel was rolled to his elbows, beard catching the light. He hadn't spoken much since the clearing, since her vow to face her father. His silence carried doubt, like a man who'd seen promises break. Sophia stepped onto the porch, the air crisp. I'm heading out soon, she called, voice steady despite the knot in her chest. Want to do something first? Luke paused, gaze sharp but curious. Do what? He set the axe down, wiping his hands. She pointed toward the clearing. Plant something. For your mom. For this place. Her words felt bold, fragile, a gift she hoped he'd take. It feels right. His jaw tightened, not with anger. He nodded once. All right. Got a pine sapling out back. She'd like that. They walked to the clearing, Luke carrying the sapling, its roots wrapped in burlap. Sophia followed, boots soft on the trail, the forest's hum a witness. The clearing opened, wildflowers nodding, the memory of Luke's home vivid. Porch, orchard, laughter. Luke knelt, digging a hole with a spade, his movements deliberate. Sophia joined him, hands in dirt, cool and damp, stirring memories of her mother's garden. Roses, a time before grief. Mom'd say dirt's honest, she said soft. No lies in it. Luke's spade paused. Mine said the earth keeps your secrets, but it don't forget. He glanced at her, warmth flickering. They packed soil, the sapling rooted, a quiet vow. Sophia sat back, wiping dirt from her hands. Lighter, like she'd left a piece of herself here. Luke leaned against a pine, watching her. "Why do this?" he asked, voice low, searching. "You're leaving. This ain't your fight." Her throat tightened, fists clenching. "It is now," she said, green eyes steady. "I'm scared to face him, Luke. But this place, it's worth fighting for both of us." Her voice cracked, raw with fear and fire. He crossed his arms, forest quiet wrapping them. "You think you can change him? He's a machine, Sophia. Power don't bend. They'll come back, Sophia. Money don't quit. I'm his daughter," she said, fierce. "He'll hear me even if it's once. Not just for you, for me, to be someone I can stand." She stood, brushing dirt off. "I need you to believe I can do this." Luke stepped closer, the gap small enough to feel his warmth. "I shut the world out after they took this place," he said, voice rough. "Didn't think anyone'd get through. Till you." His hand twitched, but he didn't reach out. "I want to believe you, but you're walking into a storm worse than the one that brought you." "Then I'll face it," she said, chin lifting. "For this, for us." Luke's breath hitched. He looked at the sapling, its needles catching light. "All right," he said low. "Don't expect a miracle." Back at the cabin, Sophia shouldered her pack. Luke leaned against the frame. Luke handed her the notebook, open to a petition, his gaze steady. She tucked it into her pack, its words a bridge between their fights. She scribbled a note. "I'll fight for Pine Ridge, I promise." On the back of the Anderson Global letter, ink defying its words. "Take care," Luke said, voice heavy, as she stepped onto the trail. "You too," she replied, meeting his gaze. His eyes held a crack in the armor, a hope he hadn't felt in years. She turned, the forest swallowing her steps, the sapling's promise rooted in her chest. The trail led to a city she dreaded, but she walked with purpose, her fight messier than she'd expected, tying her to a man, a land, a truth she couldn't forget. Spring painted Pine Ridge in vivid greens, pines sighing in the breeze. Sophia's boots crunched on the trail, her pack lighter than 6 months ago, her knee long healed. The city's clamor, boardrooms, her father's cold voice, felt distant, though its scars lingered. In his office, she'd faced Richard Anderson. Luke's petitions spread across his desk, their ink a testament to years of resistance. "This is wrong, Dad," she'd said, voice fierce. His eyes narrowed, but losing her, his only child, his legacy, stung more than pride. He'd agreed to keep her, signing the reserve into existence. The result, Miller Ridge Nature Reserve, a compromise carved from corporate greed, protecting Pine Ridge for now. She reached the clearing, the sapling they'd planted taller, its needles catching sunlight. Luke knelt beside it, flannel rolled up, hands in the dirt, tending roots with the care he'd shown her knee. His cap shaded his face, but his shoulders stiffened as her shadow fell. He stood, wiping his hands, hazel eyes meeting her green ones, wary, then softening, like the forest after a storm. "You're back," he said, voice low, rough with surprise. He brushed dirt from his jeans, a faint smile tugging his beard. "Didn't expect that." Sophia smiled, her braids swaying as she stepped closer. "Told you I'd fight." She gestured to the clearing, wildflowers brighter now. "Miller Ridge, it's official. No more projects here. It's safe." Luke's breath caught, gaze drifting to the sapling, then back. "You did that?" His voice held wonder, doubt, a crack of hope. "Your father agreed?" "Not without a fight," she said, nails biting her palms at the memory. Late nights, arguments, Luke's petitions, her shield. "It's not perfect. They'll watch the reserve, push boundaries, but it's a start." Her voice softened. "For your mom, for you." He nodded, throat working, eyes on the ground. "Never thought." He trailed off, then met her gaze raw. "Thank you, Sophia." The air stilled, pines sighing around them. She saw him, not just the man who'd lost, but the one who'd stayed. "I didn't do it alone," she said, stepping closer, the gap thin. "Your petitions, your stories, they mattered. I gave them a voice." Luke's laugh was short, warm. "Some voice." He looked at her, past her name, her past. "You're different, stronger." Her heart skipped, his words a spark. "Had to be," she said soft. "This place changed me." She glanced at the sapling, its roots deeper, like hers. "You changed me." He shifted, hands in pockets. "Didn't mean to," he said, half teasing, but his eyes held hers, warm. He touched the sapling, then her shoulder, a crack in his walls, letting her in. "You're all right, city girl." She laughed, light, free. They walked the clearing, side by side, the forest rhythm guiding them. The reserve wasn't a fix. Anderson Global's eyes lingered, waiting, and their wounds weren't gone. But they were lighter, shared. She saw her mother's garden in the wildflowers, his parents' home in the pines, their losses woven into something new. "Staying long?" Luke asked, pausing by a tree, voice casual but laced with hope. Sophia shrugged, green eyes bright. "Long enough to check the sapling?" She smirked, then softened. "Maybe longer. City's still loud. This feels right." He nodded, a slow smile breaking through. "Good." The word carried weight, an invitation to stay. They stood, the clearing alive, the sapling a promise. No grand gestures, no final fixes, just two people, scarred but standing, the forest holding their story. Sophia breathed deep, heart steady. The fight wasn't over, but here with Luke, the wildflowers, the pines, it was enough. For now, it was home. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that hope can be found in the most surprising moments, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Heartwarming Love Story. We bring you stories that touch the soul, renew your belief in kindness, and highlight what's truly important in life.